Coming up on this Monday edition of Daybreak, Korea put up a spirited second-half performance but lose to Algeria in their second World Cup group game. They'll need to beat Belgium in their final game to have any chance of qualifying for the next round. An army sergeant who fled after a shooting spree that killed 5 soldiers and wounded 7 at a frontline army unit is still on the loose, but is thought to be surrounded. First, Namhan Sansong, an ancient mountain fortress in Korea's southwestern city of Gwangju, makes it onto the UNESCO World Heritage List. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Monday, June 23rd. Here in Seoul, I'm Mark Broom and you are tuned in to Daybreak. Our top story this morning, Korea have gone down fighting in their second World Cup game against Algeria, losing 4-2. For more on this thrilling match, let's connect to our SJ Lee for all the details. SJ, that was some game.
That's right, Mark, and good morning to you. That's right, a rather high-scoring match between the two teams here with manager Hong Myung-bo utilizing the same lineup from the Russia match. So let's take a look at the highlights here. Of course, Korea looking shaky from the start as the Algerian offense play aggressively from the start. In the 26th minute, they finally find one back of the net as Islam Slimani scores off of a long pass, giving Algeria the 1-0 lead. But just 2 minutes later, the Korean defense collapses once again, giving up the second goal on a corner as Algeria goes up 2-0 early on. But the defense continues to struggle as Korea goes down 3-0 at the half. Now, Son Heung-min would add a goal here in the 50th minute, but that goes to waste as Korea quickly gives up another goal. Now, Koo Ja-cheol would add the second Korean goal here, but Algeria takes this match 4-2.
Thank you, SJ. We'll be coming back to you shortly. Now, on top of the millions of people who watched in the comfort of their own homes, thousands of Korean fans stayed up or got up in the middle of the night to watch the game on the big screen at one of the several cheering spots around the nation. Let's connect to our Connie Kim, who was watching the game in southern Seoul. Connie.
Hi, Mark. Unfortunately, Team Korea was not able to gain their first victory against Algeria this Monday morning in this year's Brazil World Cup. Now, here I'm standing at COEX, where about 40,000 people gathered at this venue to cheer for Team Korea. Now, they were wearing red T-shirts. They were having their red horn headbands on to cheer for the team. Now, however, the harsh weather did not stop the fans from coming out to cheer for the team. When the first 3 goals came within the first half, groans of disappointment came out from the large crowd, but the atmosphere picked up with Son Heung-min and Koo Ja-cheol each scoring a nice goal. Now, I spoke to one fan who still has his hopes high for the Belgium game on Friday. Now, Konstantin, how did you watch today's game and what do you think the next game will be like?
Hello, the game today was really nice. The atmosphere here was good, but unfortunately the result is not that good. I hope Korea will win the next game so that at least they won one game. But I think Belgium is pretty good, so my guess is 3-1 for Belgium, unfortunately.
All right, thank you, Konstantin, for that interview. We definitely have our hopes high for the Belgium match next time.
Yeah, we all had high hopes for this Algeria game, but unfortunately it's not to be. But you know, we still have a chance against Belgium if we beat them. So what's happening down there now?
Well, Mark, the crossroads are expected to be closed until 11 a.m. so that people can move out from this venue quickly. Now, so make sure that people commuting to this area, please make sure to take public transportation. Now, right now it feels like already a lot of people have streamed out from this venue, although we were expecting celebratory performances by singers if Korea had won. Now, earlier this morning, about 2 hours before the game, singers such as Son Heung-min, AOA, Sistar came out to cheer for Team Korea. We know the cheers will be heard in Brazil on Friday morning when Korea play Belgium in their final group game. Reporting live from Yeongdong-daero, this has been Connie Kim, and I'll be back within about an hour's time again.
Well, thank you very much, Connie. Now, we're going to go back to SJ because there was another match that many Koreans were watching in the early hours of this morning. Russia versus Belgium in Group H. SJ, tell us how they finished off.
That's right. Now, this match was pretty big, especially since Korea will be facing off against Belgium next, like they said. But let's take a look at the highlights here. Now, of course, Belgium already with 3 points and Russia needing a win in this match, but both sides are evenly matched throughout the first half. In fact, the match was a 0-0 draw up until the 88th minute when Divock Origi, who came off of a bench, sends one past the goalkeeper, giving Belgium the 1-0 lead. Now, with 6 points in Group H, Belgium advances to the next round. And now finishing things off, let's take a look at the results from the previous day with some interesting results in Brazil. Of course, taking a look at the scoreboard here. First off, Argentina squaring off with Iran. Looked to be a shocking 0-0 draw, but what do you know? Leo Messi to the rescue in the 90-plus minutes, scores a brilliant goal, giving Argentina the 1-0 lead. Meanwhile, Germany and Ghana facing off, all the goals being scored in the second half as Ghana surprises everyone with a 2-2 draw. But for Miroslav Klose, who scored in the match, ties the World Cup goal-scoring record of 15. And lastly, Nigeria taking on Bosnia and Herzegovina. A bit of a controversial match here, but Nigeria pulls away with the only goal in the match in the 29th minute as Nigeria wins this one 1-0. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Now, in the rest of the day's news, a conscript soldier who killed 5 comrades in a grenade and gun attack over the weekend is still on the run after exchanging fire with soldiers late last night, Sunday night, close to the North Korean border. The soldier, identified as a sergeant with the family name Im, was discovered hiding near a school some 10 kilometers from his base. The soldier opened fire on troops on Sunday, wounding a platoon leader in the arm. Currently, the entire area is under lockdown and all residents have been evacuated. The military says troops have been ordered to shoot to kill unless the fugitive soldier surrenders. Although the motive for the shooting still remains unknown, officials say Im was on the list of soldiers that needed special attention as he had struggled to adapt to military life. The South Korean government is aiming to pressure Japan in response to the results of Tokyo's recent review of its landmark apology to comfort women. Issued back in 1993, the Kono Statement is Japan's acknowledgement of its military's involvement in wartime sexual slavery. Seoul's foreign ministry says it will take an active stance and confront the Japanese ambassador on the issue and even raise the issue at the UN Human Rights Council. Now, Japan had said that it had no intention to revise the statement, but Korea's foreign ministry says the results of the review had misleading content that undercut the credibility of that statement. Now, strategic patience, that is the key US policy on North Korea. But while the US patiently waits for the North to show its sincerity about denuclearizing, the regime is engaging in diplomacy of its own, cozying up in recent weeks with Japan and Russia. So, should Washington take a fresh approach on Pyongyang? Our Hwang Sung-hee posed that question to Frank Januzzi, who worked as Asia policy advisor for the Obama campaign back in 2008 and is now serving as president of the Maureen and Mike Mansfield Foundation.
The most important thing is that North Korea continues to develop their nuclear capacity, and as long as the United States remains sidelined, I see no likelihood that that's going to change. Maybe putting people ahead of plutonium focusing on some of the people-to-people interactions, which could address some of the pressing human rights concerns in North Korea, but also perhaps begin to create some greater enthusiasm inside North Korea among the elite for renegotiating the terms of their current path, their current commitment to nuclear weapons.
You just mentioned people over plutonium approach. What do you mean exactly by that?
So I think the United States and other parties to the six-party talks need to focus on building a constituency inside North Korea for change. It means even if you keep sanctions, doing things like family reunification visits, cultural exchanges, bringing North Korean students out of North Korea, all of these things can help show North Korea that the true path to security does not lie with nuclear weapons.
Really knowing that there is this huge nuclear threat in North Korea and just using the people-to-people approach, wouldn't that be too dangerous?
Well, the situation is dangerous now, and nothing that the six parties are doing is making it any less dangerous. So, admittedly, a people-focused approach will not yield immediate results on the nuclear threat that we face, but neither is the current strategic patience approach yielding anything in terms of a reduction of the threat.
President Xi Jinping will be coming to South Korea next month. Traditionally, Chinese leaders have visited North Korea before coming to South Korea. President Xi isn't doing that. Is this another sign of change in China-North Korea relations?
It's a very important signal by China that China sees the long-term future of the Korean Peninsula being decided more by Seoul than by Pyongyang. And China wants to have that discussion ultimately with South Korea. So I think it's a very good sign for China's recognition of the realities on the Korean Peninsula.
Okay, well, that was our Hwang Sung-hee interviewing Frank Janussi about North Korea's nuclear problem. Now, some good news for South Korea because Namhan Sansong Fortress in Gwangju has been added to the list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The decision was announced on Sunday at the 38th UNESCO World Heritage Committee meeting in Doha, Qatar. This after the Cultural Heritage Administration had announced on April 29th that the International Council on Monuments and Sites had recommended the fortress for inscription. Namhan Sansong Fortress was built during the Joseon dynasty, and it is where the king stayed and worked during the Second Manchu invasion of Korea in 1636. The fortress had a temporary palace and Buddhist temples, and monks were mobilized to build and manage the facility. With the addition of the site, South Korea now has 11 items on the World Heritage List, 14 if North Korean sites are included. And as we just heard there, Korea boasts rich cultural assets and traditions from its 5,000-year-long history, with dozens of them UNESCO-registered heritage sites and intangible assets. Now, there's a special free tour program for all expats here in Korea that introduces them to UNESCO-listed World Heritage items right here in Korea. Our Park Ji-won reports.
This is Hwaseong Fortress, located in Suwon, some 40 kilometers south of Seoul. The late 18th century defense fortress, representing an innovative military architecture of the Joseon dynasty, was registered on the UNESCO World Heritage List in 1997. Dozens of expats are taking a stroll around the UNESCO site as part of one-day tour organized by Korea's Culture Ministry and the Korean Culture and Information Service.
I really love the way Korean present their culture and present their country. This program made me realize how rich the Korean culture is.
It is an excellent program. We are enjoying every bit of it. Wonderful people, and of course, Korea is a fascinating country.
The tour program invites Korea's international residents to explore UNESCO-listed World Heritages. The tours are free of charge for all foreigners living in Korea. Anyone who's interested in signing up can register online at www.heritageinkorea.kr. 6 more such programs will be provided throughout the year, each focusing on different UNESCO-registered Korean cultural assets, both tangible and intangible, such as the Korean martial art, taekyeon, and kimchi-making culture. Each of the tours will include a discussion and a lecture, and of course, a hands-on visit to heritage sites or the region of the intangible traditions. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Local think tanks have lowered their economic growth forecasts for Korea, affirming expectations that the aftermath of April's Seoul-ho ferry disaster will continue to put a dampener on private consumption. The state-run Korean Institute of Finance on Sunday revised down its forecast by 0.1 percentage point to 4.1%, citing the ferry disaster. Hyundai Research Institute also revised down its forecast to 3.6%, adding there's a possibility that the economy will take a detour from its recovery track in the second half of the year. Now, people around Korea could soon see their public utility and service fees go up. The fees for natural gas, water, garbage disposal and bus and subway services in Seoul, Busan, Daegu, Sejong and Jeju are all under consideration. If the plan is approved, the price of natural gas in Seoul will go up for the first time in 5 years, and in Jeollabuk-do province for the first time in 8 years. Natural gas prices in Chungcheongnam-do province had been on the decline for the past 3 years, but would rise under the plan. The biggest rise among the lot is city bus fares in Jeju, which could see a 20% hike. Critics say the rate hike is an easy solution that does not consider the financial burden on low and middle income households. A thorough review of the plan is already underway. Now, police here in Korea have arrested Yoo Byung-ho, the younger brother of the fugitive owner of the Seoul-ho ferry that sank in April. Yoo was apprehended on Sunday at his home in Daegu and arrested for alleged embezzlement. The practical owner of the ill-fated ferry, though, Yoo Byung-an, has evaded capture for more than 1 month now. The 73-year-old is wanted on charges of embezzlement, negligence and tax evasion, and authorities have cast a wide net to capture his relatives and family members. His older brother, Yoo Byung-il, has been arrested for embezzlement and violation of real estate laws. His daughter, Yoo Som-na, is being held in France on suspicion of fraud and embezzlement. Authorities have offered a $500,000 reward for information leading to Yoo Byung-an's arrest, the maximum allowed for an individual in a criminal case. Time now for a look through the international headlines we are following on this Monday morning. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim, standing by at the news center. Good morning, Eunice.
And good morning to you, Mark. In Iraq, Sunni militants are making headway in their offensive. They've captured more towns in the western Anbar province, including a border crossing with Syria, boosting their chances of taking Baghdad. Our Yurian tells us more.
Sunni militants seized a key border post on the Iraq-Syria frontier on Saturday, according to a senior Iraqi security official. The Al-Qaim border crossing and its neighboring Syrian counterpart Abu Kamal are on a strategic supply route. Most of eastern Syria is in the hands of the militants led by the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, following a 3-year-old civil war. And with the Abu Kamal Qaim crossing now in their hands, they are now in position to take over the Iraqi capital. This is the latest blow to Shiite Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, who has been struggling to maintain his grip on power as the Sunni jihadists continue to try to overthrow the government. Adding to the tensions, thousands of Shiite Iraqis marched through Baghdad in a military parade on Saturday. The men carried rocket-propelled grenades and rifles as vehicles carrying weapons filled the streets. The men are loyal to the powerful cleric Muqtada al-Sadeh, who has yet to throw his followers into the recent fighting. He has, however, criticized the Maliki government for mishandling the crisis, and the parade demonstrates that he and his followers stand ready to fight, upping the pressure on the government to rally the country together against the extremists. Yurian, Arirang News.
The United States has unlocked $575 million in military aid to Egypt, days after the country's army chief Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was sworn in as president. The news came as U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry met with Egypt's new head of state in Cairo, during which he stressed the importance of upholding the rights and freedoms of all citizens. Al-Sisi won the national polls on a platform of security, but has been pursuing a crackdown on the Muslim Brotherhood, which boycotted the May elections. Kerry also pledged Washington would stand with the Egyptian people in their fight for the future they want. More attacks by Boko Haram militants in the Nigerian state of Borno. Dozens of villagers are feared dead in Kwarang Ilam and Korong Inim, towns close to Chibok, where more than 200 schoolgirls were kidnapped from their dormitories back in April. Villagers said Boko Haram fighters peppered the villages with ammunition for 6 hours, while others torched homes and chased down fleeing people. Boko Haram militants have killed hundreds of Nigerians in the region in recent months. And finally, 350,000 people have been displaced in Pakistan after an army offensive sparked by militant strike on a major Karachi airport. The offensive took off a week ago, targeting North Waziristan, where the army said they have killed at least 200 militants in airstrikes. Refugees told international media they were angry for the military's bombing their homes. A refugee camp was set up in the nearby town of Banu as concerns the displaced could spread polio persists. Many were not vaccinated due to a ban by the Taliban.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
Now, researchers in Korea have come up with a way to give robots the sense of touch using artificial skin. This will make them more suitable for physical human interaction. Our Son Heung-min reports.
A robot that can feel the sense of touch just like a human. It seems unrealistic, but local researchers have come up with new technology that could equip robotic devices for the future. Korea's Electronics and Telecommunications Research Institute recently developed a transparent touch sensor sheet that perceives information from surroundings in real time, such as the amount of pressure, direction, and temperature of touch. Only 50 micrometers thick, it can be bent or rolled without affecting sensor signals it detects, even when force is applied to various spots at the same time, just like when shaking hands with someone.
Upon touch, light scatters on the spot and the panel detects the difference between the input light and the output light.
Thanks to its thin and flexible qualities, the panel is applicable on nearly any surface, which makes it ideal for a wide variety of future uses, most notably in the flexible display market.
This technology will enable us to maneuver robot hands in a very delicate way. It could also be applied to wearable devices for people to operate in an elaborate manner.
The result of its research has led to the filing of 8 related patents and was featured in the scientific journal Advanced Materials. Son Heung-min, Arirang News.
Good Monday morning to you. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your weather update. It was raining cats and dogs and hailing in some areas in the capital yesterday late in the afternoon. And it looks like outbreaks of rain is in store once again for today in most areas. So it will be a good idea to have umbrella handy throughout the day. And temperatures will be hovering in the low to mid 20s across the nation, which should be similar to yesterday. And then today is also kicking off under lots of clouds. And again, sudden showers along with thunder, lightning, and even hail can be ruled out in most regions. So please do keep that in mind. And let's take a closer look at the readings for today. The morning low here in Seoul is starting out at 20. Then the high in the capital and Daegu will rise to 27, while Gwangju top out at 28, and Busan should topping out at 23. Now for other regions, it looks like down on Jeju should see a high of 24. Daejeon and Dokdo will reach 26 and 20, while Mount Gyeongang tops out at 16. Well, that's all for me at this hour, but I will be back with more updates after 10.
Thank you very much, Jion. And those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Korea Today is coming up in about half an hour's time. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.